Greetings and welcome to this episode of the Heal and Restore podcast
Yeah.
with your host, Randy, and the hostess with the mostest, Cathy.
Oh, thank you for that credit, honey.
Well, you're welcome. I mean, after all, you do make this a lot better.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm glad I get to do this with you these days.
I know. It's
Yeah.
pretty fun, huh?
Yeah, it is fun. I enjoy it.
Both of our input. They don't just hear me. They get to hear the voice of a beautiful woman at the same time.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you. Should I
You're
use
full of-
my sexy voice?
No,
Should I use my professional voice?
Use Cathy's voice.
Okay, I'll just be me because
Yeah.
what you see is what you get with me.
That's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no change in Mrs. Boyd. She
Nope.
is what she is.
Yep.
Yep, that's all good.
Yeah. So what
all
are
good
we
stuff.
going to talk about today?
Well, this is July.
Yeah.
Right? And we're still talking
My favorite
about,
month still.
I wonder why that is.
Well, let's see. How many more shopping days?
Till Christmas, a lot. I lost count.
No. My birthday's this month, honey.
Whose birthday?
Okay, let's just get on with the show.
Okay, let's get on with it.
But it is my birthday month.
Yeah,
so I do
July
like
25th,
Yeah.
right? 11 more days.
Okay.
Okay, so
I like-
remember that. She likes yellow roses, right? She just likes simple things.
I'm very simple.
She's very simple. Yeah. Then why'd you marry me?
Because you're simple too. Well, no, you're not simple. You are far from simple.
Yeah, that's
You can
true.
be very complicated at times.
Oh yeah, I can. All right. But it makes you think.
Maybe it's my challenge.
That is your challenge
my
in life.
challenge,
Yeah,
yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah, been that way for a
So,
while, so nothing
Yeah,
changes.
yeah. So, but anyways, we're back to July, and we're talking about personal development this month.
Yeah.
So, and we've talked about leadership in the home
Yep.
and the importance of effective communication in the home. And this week we're going to talk about self-reflection, which, especially in a marriage and throughout life, period. But we're talking about relationships that doing a lot of self-reflection is a good way to look at your life and where you're at. For me, when I got into recovery, looking at myself, how I used to be and how I had treated you in the past, right? That self-reflection where I was finally able to become rigorously honest with myself, with others and God. When I was finally able to do that, it really it opened my eyes I hate to admit this, but how abusive I was to you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, especially the emotional abuse was just, and I've apologized to Cathy over and over for this, and
Right.
but not only have I apologized, it's my actions that are the true amends that I've made to her. So self-reflection can be a really important part. And what we have to do is, like I said, we have to become rigorously honest with ourselves. We have to get out of our own mind. We got to leave our pride and ego at the door.
And I think you have to be willing to look inward.
You have to be willing to look inward.
I'll just speak for myself. That
Right.
was an area that was a big struggle for me because I was so used to keeping everything outward
Mhm.
and making sure that as a good codependent that everybody else around me was taken care of. When it came time to look inward, it was very difficult.
Yes,
But the rewards of inward reflection far outweigh the behaviors of the outward actions. I will just say that.
because I think a lot of the outward that we look at is the facade that we put on so that people believe we are something different than we are.
Yeah,
right.
that's true. It's
Right.
very
And
true.
so it's hard to give that up sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's good.
But anyways,
So we're going to talk about the importance of self-reflection
That's
in
right.
marriage
In
because
marriage,
we
yes.
have to do it individually, but it also is important to apply that
Right.
in our marriage.
right,
So
exactly.
I'll just kind of get us started here with self-reflection being a vital component of a healthy and thriving marriage,
Absolutely.
something that we both have had to work on individually.
Mhm.
First and foremost, self-reflection helps couples to communicate more effectively.
Yes.
When we can see our part and show up our part,
Yes.
we can communicate
Yes.
from a more,
It's
a healthy place.
right. And it's important to realize that no matter what happens between you and your spouse or you and your children, we always have a part in whatever issue is up. It's not always one person's fault. Each of us have a part
Yep.
in whatever issue is arising.
Right. And one of the things that we work on in our coaching in therapy is we help couples guide them to share their feelings and thoughts with each other in a non-judgmental
Non-judgmental way.
and supportive environment.
Right.
Through self-reflection, each partner can recognize their own emotions and needs and express them clearly to the partner. And this is one of our tools that we use with our clients is our empty the jug.
Yes,
Yeah, we
yes.
find that, when we can empty the jug of our feelings and our emotions without feedback, without a sigh, without an eye roll, it opens up to express ourselves in a healthier, calmer, more truthful and honest way.
And what that empty the jug does, because there's no feedback, no comments when you participate in this um, exercise, it creates a very
Mhm.
safe place to start your communication,
Right.
because communication is one of the hardest things that couples
Struggle
can
with.
struggle
Yeah,
with. So
definitely.
it creates that. It gives you a chance to self-reflect on what's really going on inside of you
Mhm.
with a safe space.
Yeah, and it builds trust
It
within
builds
the
trust within the
relationship, and that's what
relationship.
we're
Yeah.
working towards in a lot of cases is continuing to build the trust in the relationship.
And
So
it,
it's
and it,
so important.
and in case, somebody's listening to this, go, "What's empty the jug?" You can go to our website,
Mhm.
healandrestorecounseling.com, and we have an example of what it is on the website.
Yeah, we did a fun video.
Yeah, we did a fun video. Imagine that, us being fun.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
that's good. So, also self-reflection can lead to personal growth with a deeper
mhm.
understanding of oneself, and
Yeah,
that's something that, came from Ross King therapy.
right. But
So
that's very true,
mhm.
very true. So,
And we find that, self-reflection is an essential component in our couples therapy.
yes,
And that's why we
right.
use the empty the
Yes,
jug as
yeah,
our tool to help in that. It allows the other partner to take responsibility for their own behavior
yeah,
and communication, identify any negative patterns
yeah,
that might be going on, emotional triggers,
right,
and grow personally. And I
right.
think, when the feedback we get from our clients on empty the jug is they'll do the uh, the task a couple of times and they realize that they didn't really know what the other
With
person was going through
with caring,
and what
yeah,
they were carrying.
right.
So it's so important to be able to release that. And in doing so, that's a form of self-reflection.
And oftentimes, the self-reflection will start, like, in one of our sessions, because we find that, one or both of the partners in a marriage or in a long-term relationship, they've lost their voice and they're afraid to say what's really on their
Mhm.
mind out of fear of retaliation from their partner,
Right.
right? And that's not what marriage is about. So self-reflection, again, um, gives a person the opportunity to speak their truth,
Mhm.
right? And it's not easy at first,
Sometimes it's
right?
hard to hear the truth,
Right.
as the other spouse, but it is so important for the healing of true inner self to
Yes.
be able to be heard and valued.
It's self-reflection in and of itself isn't always easy, because you're
No.
having to look at yourself, and man, sometimes
No.
that's an ugly picture that gets painted,
Yeah.
right?
So let's talk about some reasons why we want to
Right.
do self-reflection in our marriage. So why don't you share some of those
Well, one
things?
of them is personal growth. I mean, obvious, right?
Yeah.
Because self-reflection allows individuals to recognize their own strengths and weaknesses. Now, remember, self-reflection isn't always about our weaknesses, and that's important to
Yeah, that's
understand.
good.
We have to remember we also have a lot of strengths. And what I always look at is like character assets and defects.
Hmm.
Our defects, sometimes we can modify them because they got us to where we're at in our life. We can modify those defects to become assets. So it's
Yeah.
the same thing.
Same thing.
A weakness actually might be a strength that you just don't know how to
Apply it and use it
apply
correctly.
it, use
Yeah.
it correctly, right?
Yeah.
And understanding oneself better leads to personal growth, which contributes to becoming a better partner.
Yeah.
So that self-reflection on personal growth, in my own life, looking at it made me realize I can't live like this the rest of my life.
Hmm.
I can't hold on to this anger and this rage that I've been holding on to for
Right.
38 years. And then if something comes up with Kathy and I now, oftentimes, I'll reflect, I'll stop and go, where's this coming from? So
Hmm.
there's again the self-reflection is,
Hmm.
why am I so upset at the situation? It's not even worth arguing about.
Right. Yeah.
So it's something else. It's not necessarily the situation.
The current thing,
It's
yeah.
something from the past
Mhm.
that I got triggered or whatever. So
Yeah.
self-reflection is a great tool.
Right, and I had an experience, it's been a while, but it just when you said that, it reminded me that I had to do that self-reflection. There was a time where we had just got back from the grocery store, we brought the
Mhm,
groceries
mhm,
in, and I was just edgy.
mhm.
Just edgy, and I thought to myself, "What is going on
Yep,
with inside me? Everything is good around me, but what's going on inside me?"
right.
And it was just as simple as I was tired and I was hungry.
Halt. Hungry, angry, lonely, and
Yeah,
tired.
no, I was hungry and tired, and I had to stop. I had to say, "Wait a minute, why? You're getting all angst out on this when you can do something about it."
Right,
So that moment of clarity that I had for that self-reflection squashed everything that I was feeling, and I
right.
was able to take care of myself, get myself something to eat, lay down, and take a little nap, and I was fine. So
So
self-reflection for even the smallest things
right.
is so important.
So part of the self-reflection that's hard too is like, no, I'm not gonna I can't do nothing wrong.
Right.
I'm perfect, right? I can't be known. And Kathy had that issue with she doesn't like being wrong because that meant she felt that meant she hurt
Right.
somebody, and
Right.
that's not always the truth. I
No.
mean, it's just a matter of like the self-reflection
The
is going to show
what
us,
is it gonna show
and
me?
then it's that rigorous honesty steps in.
Yeah.
I have to admit my fault.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I also like this one too. Always, always, always self-reflection helps improve communication.
Always.
If we reflect on our own thoughts and emotions and reactions to individuals, we can communicate more
Yeah.
effectively. This is where compassion and empathy for
Yeah.
self and others
Right.
comes into play. It helps us by expressing our needs and our concerns
Hmm.
and our appreciations more clearly, which reduces misunderstandings.
Yeah.
So, if we're not communicating in a healthy way, all we're going to do is create misunderstandings, which we can avoid that by just doing self
Right.
reflection, by looking inward.
In that self-reflection, sometimes you need help, and oftentimes it's a self-reflection is why are you so bullheaded, right? Why can't you accept your faults, right? Why do you got to put the blame on everybody else? Well, that's when we have to start going to the root of the issue.
Mhm.
And it's one of those things people don't like to hear it, but we have to go back
Right.
into your childhood and figure out, well, how else were, who taught you how to be anything different,
Mhm.
right? I mean, as parents, we have to remember that we are teaching our children life
Yep,
lessons.
absolutely,
Right?
absolutely. And what's the next one we have?
Con-
This one's
Conflict,
I don't like
conflict
conflict,
resolution.
but
Oh, oh,
I
oh,
have learned about self-reflection when it
oh,
comes to conflict. So,
yeah. And I've learned just recently that when she wants a temper tantrum like a 12-year-old girl, I just don't move. I just let her go throw a temper
mhm.
tantrum.
That's
It's
where my
not about
self-reflection takes
right.
place is in my quiet space.
And it took me a long time to
Yeah.
learn to let her be, and as recently as that just happened a couple weeks ago, I think,
Right. Yeah.
right?
And that's why we
So,
talk about self-reflection, helping individuals understand their role in the conflict.
conflicts, right?
So when Randy steps aside and I stomp away like a 12-year-old little girl, I'm able to sit back and go, what's going on? Why am I
Mhm.
feeling this? Why am I acting this way? What's personally bothering me? And a lot of times it could be just personal triggers,
Right,
or it can be patterns of a behavior that are
right,
more constructive.
right.
So yeah, this conflict
So,
one, it really gets me.
I wanna talk about triggers for a minute because this is really important for couples to understand is that in order for us to have really good communication with our partner. And remember this that communication, the most important part of communication is listening to hear, not always talking, right?
Mhm.
So if we don't know our partner's deepest, darkest secrets and fears, then we're liable to trigger them,
Right.
right? And so it's real important that, and we work with our clients this way all the time. What are your triggers? We
Mhm.
need to know, your partner needs to know your
Yeah,
triggers.
we've got to be able to recognize them,
Right, so that we can walk away, so that we're not triggering you,
not
right?
creating the
And then
conflict.
so we can also recognize, like if you're let's say the offender, or you've been offended, you can recognize, oh, he just triggered me, or she just triggered
Mhm.
me. I got to take a deep breath. I got to call a timeout. I've got to explain where I'm at, right? And it's also for the partner to understand that I gotta be aware of my partner's triggers so that I do the best I can not to trigger them in a
Right. And
situation.
it helps resolve the disagreements much faster when we
Absolutely.
understand the trigger, know the trigger, and then when we see the trigger in place when it's
Exactly.
happening.
Right,
So it's
right.
really
So
good
self-reflection is extremely important in all aspects of
of
healing,
conflict. Yeah. Yeah.
conflict and communication and everything,
Yeah.
right?
Also, it helps empathy development.
Yes,
If we can reflect on our personal experiences and emotions, it will enhance our empathy.
yes,
Understanding our own feelings makes it easier to understand and
right,
relate to our partner's
mm,
perspective and emotions.
right,
And that's the big thing. Perspective is huge because we all have different perspective of situations. But if we can open up and do self-reflection, our perspective, it makes it easier to see the
right,
perspective of another
right,
and not just shut it down.
right.
So becoming empathy in your development with self-reflection is going to be huge in having a much calmer demeanor and being able to
Right,
just empathize with
right.
somebody.
And again, that comes, and empathy, I believe, is a learned
Yeah.
characteristic. And it's like, people will say, you just need to forgive and move on. Or what are you still carrying that around? It happened 30 years ago. And
Mhm.
it's like, people don't need to hear that,
Right.
especially if they've never had an opportunity to work on their recovery,
Right.
right? They're still stuck in
They're
that
not
victim mode, so to speak,
in
right?
that cycle.
Right. And so all we're doing when we say those kind of things to people is we're just triggering them. We're
Yeah.
sending them right back. See, my word, I don't mean nothing to anybody.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where the empathy comes into play. It's like we have to understand these people are hurt. Our
Yeah.
partners are hurt. Our children are hurt. Some way, somehow, emotionally, they're hurt.
Right.
Right. And we have to become empathetic to that and work with them through the issue,
Mhm.
not against them,
Right.
not by telling them you need to forget, and
No.
move on.
No.
It happened 30 years ago. Why you still carrying it around? Well,
Well, the perfect example is you were working on a future book today, and
right,
you said it made you sad.
right, right,
And I could have just shrugged that off as no big deal, but
right,
I invited you back into the conversation. Well, what do you think that
right.
was? And so
Exactly.
we had a
Right,
little
right,
small conversation
right.
about that.
Hmm.
So it's really easy to bring somebody back into a place to show that empathy and that
Right,
compassion.
exactly. And I want to bring this up too because it's really important. Kathy's never thrown that affair in my face, not once, never, ever, ever. Right, and probably 15 years and after it happened, 14, 15 years after the affair, right? I was working on a big project with another life coach, right? Topeka, she's a great, great girl, right? A little bit younger than us, and I mean, she's pretty. She's not as beautiful as Cathy, but she's pretty. And I'd been going over to her house for a couple weeks, working anywhere from 4 to 8 hours over at her house on this project we were doing. I came home one night, and Cathy's in the kitchen, and she's on the chopping board with a big butcher knife. And I'm looking at her. I go, "Hey, what's wrong, Kath?" Nothing. I go,
Mhm.
"Come on, something's wrong. I can see it in
That
your face."
infamous answer,
Right,
nothing.
nothing. I'm fine, right? And she looked at me and she says, "I'm just worried about you and Topeka. You've been spending a lot of time together,
Yeah.
right? Now, two things could have happened, and the worst thing that could have happened was what I didn't do is like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
That was 15 years ago, and you're still holding that over my
Yeah.
head."
No, you did
I
not do that for sure.
Instead, I simply looked at her. I says, "I've been waiting for this conversation," and I truly was, right?
Mhm.
And I says, "I understand where you're at. You have a right to feel that
Yeah.
way, but just be assured that it's strictly business. I've done too much hard work on myself and our family, and I do not want to
Right.
destroy that." So there's where the empathy came
Right.
in.
Right. And because of that empathy, it's the next
Mm,
thing here, and self-reflection is being able to build trust.
right, exactly.
Self-reflection encourages honesty with oneself. If I wasn't honest with myself, if I kept saying nothing and
Right, right.
shrugged it off in that
Mhm.
scenario, I would have never been able to. But there was a moment of clarity where I thought, I have to be honest. I'm feeling a certain way. What am I feeling? I need to express it. So being able to be honest, it translates into a more honest and transparency with my
Right,
relationship with you. And then the honesty fosters trust and intimacy within the relationship. So with me being able to be honest about that and looking inward and saying, okay, really, what is going on? And telling you what was bothering me, it allowed me to say and feel valued, trust that the trust was continuing, and I was reassured. I was just in that reassurance mode. So, self-reflection, looking inward to be able to identify what's really going on will build trust as
Right.
well.
And if I would have gone the other route, who knows what would have
Yeah,
happened.
no, there probably would have not, would have
Right.
we would have had a temporary breakdown of what we were working
Right,
and building.
exactly.
And then the other one is the emotional regulation
Yes.
that self-reflection can bring. If we reflect on and understanding one's emotional responses, individuals can manage their emotions better.
Right.
And that's something that you were able to do. You had emotional regulation in that story, and it led to healthier interactions. It prevented things from escalating.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
during the disagreement, because you were prepared, but you had already, obviously you were prepared. You had already done some self-reflection on that with the anticipation.
Plus that butcher knife you had in your hand.
That kind of helped.
No,
But I think I do think that you were more prepared
Yeah.
because emotionally you were connected to
Right.
the situation.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, so that's really good.
Right.
The other thing that's really important in self-reflection is being able to strengthen our connection.
Right. Exactly. And
Yeah.
that scenario we just talked
Yeah.
about was a perfect way for that to
Yeah,
happen.
self-reflection, it definitely
Right.
helps individuals appreciate the positive aspects of their
Right.
relationship and their partner. And that's a perfect example of that, because I did appreciate the fact that you didn't blow me off, that you
No.
did just say, hey, I've been, I've been thinking that you were going to think this way. And so you acknowledged my feelings and brought value to
Right.
what I was feeling.
Right. Exactly.
And then that gratitude in turn strengthens the emotional bond and overall connection that we
Right.
had with each
Right.
other. And
Yeah,
so
because
it's so important.
as soon as I told her that, her whole demeanor changed.
Yeah.
She was just back to being Cathy
Yeah.
without no worries.
Yeah,
Right.
no, it was really good. That's a
So,
perfect example of that. And that self-reflection worked both ways in that story. The other thing that's important in reflection is being able to set goals.
right.
If we can reflect on a relationship, it allows us as couples to get realistic and meaningful goals together. Whether it's improving our communication, which we can always improve our
Always.
communication,
Always.
spending more quality time together.
Always.
That's always important.
Right.
Or resolving specific issues, setting
Always.
goals fosters collaboration and mutual support.
Absolutely.
It's not one person doing it, it's both parties doing
And
it.
it's not a one and done.
No.
This is a way of life. You just got to
Yeah.
start living this way and talking this way with your partner all the time. And again, recognizing that we are human and
Yeah.
recognizing that we're gonna have a little spitter spatter here and there.
And recognizing that this stuff is not always easy.
No,
But it's
not at
okay.
all.
There's grace. You have to give yourself grace. You have to give your spouse, your partner grace. I mean, we're all learning to transition into a new way of living, especially if you're, working on breaking generational curses.
Yes.
I mean, you're gonna do
yes.
you gotta do the hard things to get to the healthy places in our lives. And some of these things are not easy.
And we have to remember that we're breaking habits that we've had for, we're adults, probably
Take
10,
however old you
10
are minus down to where you were 10 years
Right.
old. That's the
Yeah.
number of years you're working on correcting.
On average. I mean, so you're not going to correct 10, 20, 30 years of behavior in
No.
a period of a year. You're going to have to constantly work on it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a daily reprieve to a new way of living.
Yes. And there's a saying in the program, more will be revealed.
Yeah.
And believe me,
It has.
more does come revealed. I mean, it's like, God, we've already worked on all this. Why is this coming up again? More is being revealed.
Yeah.
Right.
Peeling away that onion.
Peeling away the onion.
And then a couple more things that we have left in self-reflection. One, this is so true. Self-reflection prevents resentment.
Yes.
If we're doing regular self-reflection, it will help you as an individual address small issues before they come big, giant monster of problems. If we acknowledge and address our feelings early, we can prevent the buildup of resentment.
Absolutely.
And so I think that is big key is self-reflection allows you to see the small things before they become the large things. And we have to be able to see that and acknowledge that soon rather than later.
Yeah, because if we don't, well, I'm fine. It's okay, no big deal.
Yep.
And we keep saying that. And so our container
Yeah,
keeps on getting more full and more full and more full of these resentments that we don't even know we're keeping track of.
right.
And then one day in an argument, right, or a disagreement or whatever you want to say, has nothing to do well, let me back up. In that kind of an argument, the one that's holding on, that's been holding on to all this stuff for so long, just
Yeah,
explodes like
that's
a
me.
volcano,
I'm the
right?
volcano sometimes if
And
I'm careful.
it has nothing to do with the conversation. She's not it's all these resentments that we've
Building over
been holding
time.
on to, and finally, I can't take anymore, my container's full, and I'm gonna say it, all hell just
Yeah,
blows up,
that is so, so true.
and I was famous for that, and it's not pretty when it happens,
Yeah,
right?
no. The one thing is I think both of us were that was one of the challenges we both had.
Yes.
And there were times when our volcanoes or our cans would be full at the same time, and that is not pretty. That is not pretty. So the
No.
more you can release in the feelings and emotions early on, the less of a can you're going to carry around, and that can gets heavy after a while. So it's going to open up.
And the one thing that I've learned, it's taken me a long time, I think Kathy's learned it too, is that, you know, if the right thing to do is if we can't come to a resolve of a disagreement, or it's okay to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And it's not worth keep on trying, it's not worth trying to keep on pounding your thoughts and your ideas and into your partner's or your spouse's life. I mean, or mind. They've got to make up their own mind,
Right.
right? And
We're there
some
to support
we're
each
there to
other.
support each
To make
other. Right.
suggestions, but we've got to get to that space by ourselves, and that's true
That
self-reflection.
that's true
Yeah.
self-reflection, right? It's like, I might not always agree with the things Kathy says, and I'll walk away, and I'll think about it, and I go, "Well," and Kathy does the same thing.
Yeah,
It's like,
certain
"Oh, you
times
know
we're
what?
like, "Oh, okay, well,
Yeah,
yeah,
whatever," and then we walk away, it's like, maybe what they said, maybe what she said is not so bad after all,
right."
right?
Yeah,
So, you gotta give your chance a time. You gotta give yourself a time to walk away and think about what you're disagreeing with.
create your self-reflection time is really what it
Exactly,
comes
right.
down to.
That's
Give
what it all
yourself
boils down
space
to
to
it, right?
self-reflect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the last one we have is the adaptability. When self-reflection helps us as individuals recognize, this is what I love, when change is needed, whether it's a personal behavior, communication style, relationship dynamics. Being adaptable and open to change is crucial for long-term relationship success. And this is
Yes.
where we always talk about we have to be open and willing.
Right.
We have to, and open and
Open-minded.
willing and open-minded allows for the adaptability to
Right.
take place. If we're closed off to everything, well, might as well not do self-reflection, you know?
Well, I think that's what happens in the poor communication is that, again, it's not talking, it's the listening to
Mhm.
hear what the other person is saying, how they're feeling.
Right.
And what happens is, after the first sentence or two, it's like we close ourselves off,
Mhm.
right? We just shut down.
Right.
We're no longer paying attention to what they're feeling, right?
Mhm.
What they're going through, because we're thinking of ourselves and we're thinking about, I know
Yep.
how to fix this person,
And
right?
that's why self-reflection is so important because it
Absolutely.
eliminates that false belief of what
Right.
communication is.
Right.
And so it's such a good place to be when we can self-reflect
Right.
and be open
Absolutely.
to that.
Right.
I just thinking about all of these 10 little areas that we've covered in self-reflection. I just want to, let our listeners know as we close this out. Couple things. One is incorporating regular self-reflection in your marriage can
Mhm.
lead to a deeper understanding, I'm
Right.
sorry, of oneself and one's partner,
Right.
creating stronger and more resilient relationship. And if you don't know how to do that, or if you feel like you're stuck and you're
Right.
just not sure how to
Right.
do that self-reflection,
Yeah.
reach out to us
Yeah,
at
absolutely.
healandrestorecounseling.com. Go to our website, drop us a message. We'll reach out to you. We do have our 45-minute
No
no
cost.
cost discovery session that we are offering individuals as well as relationships, marriages, partnerships, whatever that looks like. We want to make sure that when change is desired, that we can give you the best opportunity for that change. Breaking those generational curses, things that you've learned in your family dynamic growing up that you want to be better at or do differently at. We're
Right.
here to help you. So please reach out to us at healandrestorecounseling.com. Also, just want to remind everybody, our books are available on Amazon. We've got 2 new books that are out. One came out several months ago. We have a new one that just came out this last month.
All right.
And so we invite you to check it out on Amazon.
What's the name of that book?
It's called, oh my
Renewing
gosh,
Bonds. Renewing
I don't have that
Bonds.
name down yet.
Yes.
It's Renewing Bonds: 7 Steps to Leading to a Healthy Relationship.
Right.
And it's a great little easy read, and it gives you some tools to work on towards renewing of those bonds. And it's like our friend Pastor Cathy says, you know, we're never too far into our relationship that we can't make improvements and changes.
Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
we love the opportunity to be able to help you. We know there's been so many people that has helped us along the way, and it's our opportunity to give back to others as well.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna say this. If you're in marriage and you say, we got no problems, everything's perfect in our marriage, you need to do some self-reflection.
I was gonna say, why don't you come teach us then? Because
Yeah.
we're still
Yeah,
self-reflecting.
yeah.
We're still doing our
Yeah,
making
we can
improvements.
always make
Yeah,
improvements on
absolutely.
ourself and in our relationship.
We always have to remain teachable.
Always,
Yeah, that's good.
always, right.
So this was a good one, honey. I like
Yeah,
this
it was.
topic.
You like this one?
I didn't at first I was like, I don't know what how I can contribute, but boy, you gave some good ideas here to help with that. So I
Cool, cool,
appreciate
cool,
that.
cool. You got it, man. So we hope you all take away at least one thing from this
Mhm.
podcast, if not more. And again, like Kathy says, reach out to us at healingrestorecounseling.com. Shoot us a line if you're struggling, and we'll set up that no-cost
Yeah.
45-minute discovery session and make sure that we're fit, and we'll get you going on your journey of recovery.
Yeah.
Right?
Love it.
So remember, if nobody tells you they love you today, Randy does,
Kathy
but
does.
more importantly, God does.
Yes.
Be blessed, everybody. Have a marvelous week.
Have a good one.